Hello mechatronics students. In this video we're going to be talking about layout, getting our materials ready to be machined on the mill or on the lathe, or even if you're just machining things, laying things out by hand and using a drill press. So I want to first begin by taking a look at our drawing. So this is the drawing that we're going to be using, and just a hand sketch here. It shows that we're going to be creating a block. Let's take a look at the side view here. You can see that it's got some kind of edges that are milled off over here at 0.3, and they're to the depth of 0.25 inches. This is the material that we're going to be starting with, and it's a chunk of aluminum that I've applied blue coat to. So this blue layout fluid, when placed over the top of the surface, allows us to see our lines that we scribe in there, and that's useful as we're setting things up on the mill to get things going. And again, this is something that is really good for people that are just getting into it, that are just beginning learning how to do some machining and some layout. It really helps you to verify that all your lines are in the right spot and we can see them. This block, you can also see that we've got a number of slots that are milled in it. So we'll talk about how we can mill the slots. We'll get them in a layout pattern, and then there's a center that's all the way through. So we're going to take a look at putting those marks onto our part and doing that with our height gauge. So there is the height gauge. Again, we can clean off our surfaces, clean off the granite, make sure there's no dust and junk on there. We can bring our height gauge down, and we can use this to lay things out. So in this drawing, the first thing I'm going to do is describe these lines where this slot, this edge mill is going to go, this step mill. So that's at 0.3 inches on both sides of the part. So you go ahead and set this guy up to measure at, well, first of all, make sure it clears at 0, so that's in good shape. And then we'll raise this up to go to 0.3 inches. There's 0.310, and you could tighten up the top block and then use this nut to kind of lock things into position. There's our 0.3, and we can then scribe that on both sides of our block, so both edges. So I'm just going to take this guy, line it up, and use that carbide tip edge over there, kind of fighting with the camera angles, to scribe a line all the way across. So that gives me a nice crisp line that you guys can see there. It's easy to see in the blue. We're going to put that at both sides of the block. All right, so we've scribed our line at 0.3 inches on both sides. Just trying to get it to reflect off the light. It's easier to see in person than it is on the camera. And then we're just going to go through the remaining parts of this and scribe our lines where we'd like to see them, so that we know when we're milling the part that we're basically brushing up against those. So I'm going to go ahead and do some math and figure out where these edges are. I guess I can start by marking a 0, 0, 0 corner. That's something I've not done yet, so just give me a second. All right. When I talked about a 0, 0, 0 mark, one of the things I should have mentioned at the very beginning of this is that you see all of our dimensions are from this surface up here, right? They're all relative to this edge. And likewise, all the dimensions, we could call this our x-axis, all those dimensions are relative to this edge of the part. So what we want to do is to find those two edges of the part on the actual thing and just assign what is our 0, 0 corner. So again, it was this upper right-hand corner that served as our 0 point for all of our dimensions. They're all referenced from that point. So we're going to do the same thing on our physical part, and how we do that is to mark that off using a Sharpie marker. And again, the blue layout fluid doesn't help this much, but I like to color in that all the way around. My Sharpie's seen some better days, but that way I know that that's my 0, 0, 0 corner for the entire operation, for everything that we're going to be doing, all those dimensions come off of that upper right hand corner, and that's where the dimensions are referenced. So we're going to use that as we continue to do some layouts. So let's pick on, as an example, this center pocket that's milled out here. So that should be at 1.5 inches according to the drawing. So we're going to go ahead and raise up our height gauge to 1.5 inches. All right, so it's a little large of that right now. Again, the best way to get it dialed in is to tighten that up and just dial it in like so. There's our 1.5. And that's relative to, okay, this is my 0 corner here. Maybe I could even mark that on the drawing, that, you know, essentially this point right here in the drawing is our 0, 0, 0 point. So we find that same point on our drawing, and I've just done this 1.5 inches that goes up. So we'll put the block on here and use our height gauge to mark out where is that slot going to be at in that 1.5 inches from the bottom. All right, so I've got that line scribed in there. Again, I have to kind of adjust the light so you guys can catch it. There we go. I saw it very briefly there. There's that line. So I'm just going to go ahead and scribe out the rest of the lines here, and then I'll show you guys when we've got them all scribed. Okay, so I've got all my lines scribed on here, and I've got a nice close-up angle that you guys can see to appreciate this. So we can see, based on the drawing, I've got all the slots. They're kind of marked out where the boundaries would go, and the center slot, got all those marked where the edge is. So that's just going to serve as a nice reference as I put the part on the mill, and I'm dialing everything in just to make sure that I've got everything in the right spot where I'd like it to be. Okay, so that takes care of some of the basics here of laying things out, taking dimensions and information from your drawings and transferring them using the granite block and our height gauge with that carbide tipped scribe to get it onto the part, and that's going to be useful as you're machining things out. Again, it's a great tool for folks that are just beginning with this process, that want to make sure that their features on the part are mapped out, they're in the right spot, and it'll give you some confidence when you're actually cutting them out on the mill and using, you know, other tools to find those features and locations. But the main thing is you'll be able to see it, you'll know it, and it will help you in your process, and also understanding that you've got that 0, 0 mark here, that origin that we pulled from the print, and we're going to reference that once we get it set up in the mill and go ahead and machine this out. So there'll be some more videos coming on that. Until next time.